Good afternoon to all of our attendees, and thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to our third episode of the Unpack It webinar series by Signet. Through this webinar series, we will explore responsible business practices through continuous improvement approaches and explain how companies can create a lean and green future that provides simultaneous environmental and economic benefits. I would now like to introduce our presenters for the session today. And first up, we have our guest speaker, Lee Sutherland from Little Wildling Co. Lee Sutherland is the director and founder of an organic herbal tea company, Little Wildling Co, and talent management agency, Frankie and Jet. Lee is a wrangler of two little humans, two chickens, and a sausage dog. And Lee is not a not-so-secret lover of gin and tonics, veggie gardening, and absolutely loves teaching others how to have a sustainable business. We also have our host, Brad Jeavons, joining us, and Brad is the Business Improvement Manager at Signet. Brad is also an organisational improvement leader and author whose purpose is helping to share knowledge and create a better future economically, environmentally, and socially for generations to come. Brad is the host of the Enterprise Excellence podcast, which shares knowledge weekly from our world's leading experts on improving organisations to create a better future. Brad has extensive experience within the packaging industry and helps organisations large and small achieve sustainable improvement. Please welcome Lee and Brad to our webinar today.
Thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to hand over to you now, Brad, and we'll kick off your conversation with Lee.
Hey Lee, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate the time you're sharing today.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
Yeah. Hey Lee, do you mind if we start today if we explore Little Wildlings Co's environmental journey? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at, Little Wildling and its journey environmentally, and we're going to look at the company and cover that topic. We're going to look at the environmental shift that the company did and how Signet played a part. We're going to look at education and resources that you've used, Lee, and we're going to look at advice and your vision for the future. So I really appreciate and look forward to getting into this. So let's get into the questions, Lee. So Lee, can you tell us a bit about your backstory and where your passion for business and the natural health side of things started?
Oh God, the backstory. So I guess at the very, very start, I grew up in country WA in the middle of nowhere on a farm. So I think when we had a chat the other day, actually it kind of triggered me. I was like, oh yeah, I had my parents as the mirror of small business owners and entrepreneurs, which I never really thought of them as that. But I think that's kind of where my ethos for like hard work and yeah, working around the clock, whether I like it or not, kind of came from. So yeah, I grew up very, very remote country, really small school. And then out of high school, I studied natural health science. And, I can't even really tell you why. I think it might have been, yeah, just being in nature all the time. And I always kind of had that way of thinking of just, helping people and, using natural medicine and food as to help kind of thing. So I did that straight out of high school. And then after that study finished, I got the bug to then work in the music industry and entertainment industry. So I kind of pivoted, did a little bit of study in marketing and PR and music management. And it just kind of, I think it was after I worked at Universal Music for several years in PR and marketing where, yes, it was amazing. I got to do, unheard of things like backstage with all the biggest celebrities and musos around the world, but it was also kind of the start of, I guess, the corporate world killing your soul. So yeah, towards the end of that time there, I started studying actual holistic personal training, which sounds a little bit random, but it kind of gave me that taste of getting back into like the natural health science and kind of getting back to where I originally started. So off the back of that, I started a blog which gained popularity, and from that I was getting invited to heaps of media events and really great opportunities to mingle with people who were either at the very beginning or quite far down the track with a product-based business. So yeah, it just kind of exposed me to that world and really motivated me and inspired me, I guess, to kind of replicate what they've created and have that lifestyle. So yeah, it was probably after I left the record label and I was at a management agency, which I loved, is where I started Little Wildling Co kind of as my side hustle.
Wow. So you had a real journey of, the natural world and, out in the country through to corporate world. And so what was your original real motivators to set up Little Wildling Co? What was it that drove you to do that?
I think I kind of was getting that urge to return back to my, I guess, the roots of what I studied as well. I just always had something about starting a product-based business because everything that I did to that point was either a service-based, I guess, offering, with whether it was management or my personal training and the website. So yeah, I was already creating my own home blended teas because I had some hormone and skin issues. So I was kind of already had that going, which I never thought anything of. But yeah, I think I was just, to be honest, I was being a little bit cocky. I saw my friends have these product-based businesses and I'm like, you know what, I want to try this. And so it was just kind of a list of elimination, like what am I passionate about or use a lot. So one was chocolates. Everyone loves chocolates, and you know, but people were nailing that category already. Lip balms, used every day, not passionate about it. And I think I just came to teas because it was something that I consumed a lot of myself. I had already mixed, I had a background in it. And I guess I just couldn't find kind of anything that I wanted to display in my house myself. Like everything was either too brown paper bag hippie variety, or just, you know, the formulations weren't, you know, my favoring sort of thing. So I think it was just kind of, yeah, I really can't explain why, but I remember I was in Byron Bay when it kind of all came to me. I was walking in Bangalore and I was just in this cool little like product shop, and yeah, it just kind of like all came to me. It was like the branding, the vision, the voice of the brand, and yeah, so I just kind of started it on a whim.
Yeah, it's not a bad place to be to have that come through, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Hey Lee, do you mind sharing your journey so far with Little Wildling? What you've been through, what you've discovered so far?
Yeah, so after that moment in Byron Bay, it was a really quick kind of development process. I am very gung ho, and if I want to start something, it's straight away. So I guess it's both a blessing and a curse. I think if you sit on something for too long, you know, you overthink it, you overwork it, you start to find too many other companies out there. And I really didn't. I kind of, I guess, looked around to see what other brands was out there, but I obviously didn't dig very deep because there's like, now I see there's like 1,000,002 tea brands out there. But at the time, I was just obviously being really naive and only saw kind of 3 major brands out there. But yeah, it was really quite quick. Once I had the kind of really clear branding and vision idea, which I think is, you know, it really is the most important step, because if you don't execute the design and, you know, the whole brand guidelines first, like I feel like you're in trouble, because you could have the most amazing product on the inside, but if it doesn't kind of appeal to people to actually want to try it first to get them in and then they love it, yeah, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. So I think to start with, that was our, you know, one of our really strong points. People wanted to try it because they like the look of it. But our biggest is repeat customers. So thank God they love it, the blends that they keep purchasing. So after I did the branding and the design work with my graphic designer, I kind of worked backwards, which I wouldn't recommend. I really recommend you should start with, you know, being smart and doing the costing up front, which I think, yeah, I just, as I said, I work backwards. I'm very creative and do the money side at the end. So I kind of did my formulations and then the packaging. And then, yeah, I just really hit go, went to market straight away.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you've got a really good product that suits a wide range of people, but you've also designed packaging that people would be pleased to see in their own home, and it looks good, makes them feel good. That's great, really unique. On to
Yeah, I
the,
think that was
environment.
important.
Yeah, well, it's great. It certainly is something different. I know most of the tea that I've seen around, it's not really a centerpiece to show up in your shelf at home. That's great. Lee, with what triggered you, when you talk about environmental, what triggered you to actually take that step and look at environmental options within your supply chain?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I really started quickly in the whole process of designing the packaging and my offering. I was kind of, the forefront was design, so it looked beautiful, and also obviously it had to be functional, so the tea stayed fresh. So my very first 2 items was a resealable pouch, because, you know, again, it can stay in the shelf of people's houses for longer without bugs or, you know, like the elements getting to it. And the second one was a beautiful tin, like a classic throwback tin, which was like, we called it our collector tin. And, you know, the assets makes me laugh now. So it was the tin that we had printed directly on. And to get this from China, to get the quantity that we needed for the run to actually happen, and at a price point that was viable, it was like a shipping container or something ridiculous. So my first
Wow.
foray, yeah, I just remember it getting delivered and my husband was like, is that in here to like unload everything? So yeah, but then now in hindsight, I can see that, you know, it wasn't really functional. I thought it was being environmentally friendly because you could reuse it, but then it didn't really suit. So kind of since those two packaging options, we've had to change everything, and because it had to be more sustainable to kind of suit I guess my learnings as well. Like back then, I didn't have all the education around products and the endpoint of the supply chain, and you know how people were going to dispose of it. So we've kind of changed and evolved as my learnings and understanding have. And I think, yeah, you know, like everyone should be kind of doing on the same path, because as a product-based business, I think it's our, you know, it's our responsibility to kind of think of that. Like the world's in a pretty dire state at the moment, and you can't just be creating something for the sake of it. Like you've really got to think, how can we dispose of it that's going to be kind of sensible, and can it get back to the earth? Or, you know, if you can't change your packaging to kind of be more eco, then how's other things in your business can you kind of like try to pivot and change to make up for the fact, whether it's planting trees or your you know, your careers you use in the boxes to send, all that sort of stuff can be a little bit more environmentally focused.
It's great advice. And Lee, I know through our dealings together so far, you've been extremely humble on your journey. But if you talk about what you just said there, you thought about where the product ended up, the end of life, and how you go cradle to cradle. That is very advanced from what I hear in the market at the minute. So it's a credit to you that you were thinking that way. How did you go about the environmental journey? Like, where did you start? And Lee, if you don't mind just sharing how it dawned on you that piece about end of life too, and thinking that way.
Yeah, I think with the pouches, you know what, I don't even know. It was just obviously all of my self-owned kind of development and learnings and things I was taking to play within our personal life, and then, you know, how we could start implementing that into business as well. So I'm not really sure it was one thing, but it was just kind of the further I went down with my research and, you know, thinking about how our products can evolve as well to still, you know, really stand out in the market as you know, a leader, and hopefully getting to overseas distribution. It was just taking into account that, like, it's not something I was proud to continue using, if that makes sense. So yeah, we've changed our pouches now. We're running them out, and so we have new boxes. So the boxes are recyclable, the inserts are compostable. We have loose leaf, which is organic. Yeah, and we have our tea bags, which are compostable, which is was really, really hard to do. So I think it was just yeah, being proud of something that, you know, we were putting out there, and then hopefully you know, encouraging other people to do the same.
It is so cool that you came across compostable tea bags, because I know that typically there's a lot of plastic and seals in there too, and other tea products. So if you're there, and there's the health aspect of that too, isn't there, Lee? Like, you're putting your tea to go into a drink with compostability, not plastics. That's amazing.
And people are like, especially when they're thinking they're having a herbal blend, which is like for medicinal purposes in a tea bag, but then it's like bleached and got glue and, you know, like all the rest of this, like, so contraindicated.
It is, isn't it? It's been a quandary for myself and my wife, so I'm really glad to hear you're going there. Lee, how did you come across Signet? You know, how did that partnership begin with Signet?
Yeah, so it was when I was living in Noosa at the time, when we were there for 18 glorious months, as we were chatting before, and I just got my big shipment of my new glass jars in. Again, it was like the evolution of the packaging. We needed to have a new option to replace our cafe canisters, and so we went with the glass jars for both retail and our cafes. And I didn't really think until the shipment came in, I was like, okay, now we have to send them without breaking, which was like, again, didn't really think of that point through. But yeah, we just used what we had in the warehouse to start with, which is, you know, we repurpose for our wholesale customers boxes and things like that. We always try to reuse before buying things. So we had some bubble wrap like on hand that someone obviously sent to us, and they broke. Like a couple of parcels that we sent in the jars, they broke with bubble wrap. And it wasn't until probably like 2 weeks after that happened, I must have received something in the mail or saw it on social media or something, and it was, I'm probably going to say it wrong, the Janimi.
Giami,
yeah, Giami. So the bubble wrap, which looks like it's paper.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so good. So it took me such a long time to go down the Google of like what is it called, to actually find the name of it, to suppliers, and then I finally stumbled across what the name was, and just from there, you know, like a week or so investigating who was the better supplier and cost effective and everything like that, and I came across Signet, and it was amazing. It had a video with the machine, so yeah, it's like a machine, which was just perfect for when you're doing a lot to kind of roll it out. So yeah, I just came, I guess, across by accident, and then it was just like a pricing point. I love that you guys were local and Australian, and yeah, had all the information there to kind of educate, which was awesome.
It's really cool to hear, Lee. Like as everyone knows, I have a lot to do with Signet and involved with the company, but you know, hearing that speed of reaction and how easy it was to get to Signet and find the information and then get them to engage with you is great. But also that Giami product, you know, I've been involved with a lot of improvements out there in the market, and the speed at which it helps you pack, plus the robustness, is just off the
and that it performs though, like it actually, like my glass jars don't break with it, which is crazy.
And just go in the normal recycling bin, like it's amazing. It's again that thinking that end of life, isn't it? Because we've got to make it easy for the consumer at end of life, because if it's not easy, are they actually going to recycle it, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And even like, you know, people like the packing peanuts, but for me, when I receive it, like it's a pain. Yeah, and then it was just, then we found other things like the water activated tape, packing tape, and the boxes for when we do need it. So yeah, it was just good to kind of have the kind of standard stuff for when we wanted to keep it unbranded so other people could reuse it as well, which I really liked.
Yeah. Lee, the thing I'm finding too is the unpacking experience. Like my wife and I were fortunate to get a lot of products that are from Signet coming to us, you know, with the Giami and also the water activated tape, but it looks so good too. Like, do you agree? Like, how did you feel about the look of that type of environmental solution aside from the environmental factor?
Yeah, like it looks really great. I was just there with a couple of girls in our office yesterday who have a luxury brand as well, and I saw them over my shoulder trying to like talk about it. I was like, I know, guys. And yeah, like, so it's great to see that every level of business, whether it's like a luxury brand and just like the little guys, can use it as well, because it does look good, and it has the tissue paper as well. I love.
Yeah, it's nice. Like tearing the old plastic tape or cutting old plastic tape off a carton too, it's not a good experience, but the nice cardboard looking, you know, environmental tape is amazing. No, really glad to hear. Lee, now I know you've been through a big journey so far, and I just want to be able to get some advice and, you know, education and information for our users if we could. Are there any sites or places that you can recommend for those starting their journey? Like where could they go? Where could they look to really learn and grow?
Oh God, it's such a minefield. I really think there's not, I haven't found one holy grail source of everything. I mean, the one that really helped me was banish.com.au. She's got a really great waste list workbook, which is you apply to your home life. But I think if you have that kind of, that really open, like I thought I was amazing at recycling and, you know, we compost and have worm farm and all of that jazz, but there was so much in there that I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know you could do that. So our rubbish bin, our red bin's gone from like being overflowing every week to like, you know, a quarter of the size. So I think having starting and implementing all the tips and resources at home before you take into your business life is really important. So yeah, I think just educating yourself, and then it just opens up the world to everything else in business. Like websites like B Corp was really great because it gives you, you know, like on a global kind of holistic scale, I guess. But in terms of like individual packagings and things like that, it really is case by case. Like you'll find a supplier, they'll say what a type of packaging is made out of, and then you have to do hours and hours of individual research, because I think we were saying before, like I'm continuing to get quotes of like to get like compost friendly cafe pouches, you know, and so we can get rid of, you know, that last piece of the puzzle of our stand-up pouches as well. And so many places in Australia and overseas, they say it's compostable, they say it's recyclable, but they're just using key trigger words, and when you come down to it, like it's not. So it's really hard, and it wasn't until like I actually spent time researching and questioning. Like I would have hit go 4 months ago on a bunch of packaging because she said, yep, this is compostable. But then when you compare and stuff like that, it's not. They're just like repeating what you're saying, sort of thing. So you've got to be really careful. And it also might be compostable in a big industry composter, not home compostable, which is what you kind of need it to be. So I'm sorry, but there's not one resource that I put together a really big list that I think you will share afterwards with people, or if anyone wants to email me afterwards. I've got a really good, supplier list that we work through now from like, obviously Signet and overseas places, and, water activated tape that you can get personalized and things like that, so you can have your branding kind of continued. But yeah, it's just a lot of individual research, unfortunately, and it kind of comes down to what packaging is unique for you as well.
And Lee, there sounds a real message of buyer beware at the moment in there too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because you can't, as much as it was, it might be an innocent mistake. If you're marketing and promoting to something that it's recyclable or organic or compostable or whatever it may be, and it's not, like, people don't care that it was a mistake. It's, so you got to be accountable, I guess.
Our environmental manager has just got a place with APCO on a new body to hopefully bring ARL logos and more information into supply chain packaging. So that's going to be brilliant if Kylie can really help to drive some greater education there too with APCO, which they're doing a great job. So it'll be brilliant. That'll help.
Yeah.
Lee, with the future, like, you've done so much and your career's been amazing. What's your vision for Little Wildling Co for the future and for yourself? Where are you going now?
I think we're still very much growing. I hope to employ more people next year. At the moment, it's just me and my colleague Hayley, who work across the business and like with both businesses. So I hope to kind of have someone solely on Little Wildling Co as well to help with kind of sales and distribution and packaging. We do everything in house, so it's kind of like that side would be great. Working on collaborations is another key thing. We had a beautiful one with Clarence last year, which was in David Jones and Mars, which was exciting. But like, I love the education stuff as well. So I really hope to kind of within our website and blog and like with people like you, like continuing that message, like even if it's simple as I think unless you think about it, or especially if at the start of your journey, like lots of people are, like you wouldn't even really consider the, like even the sending process, or when you're making a product, like having that consideration, like, a pouch might be easier to send in a satchel, or, the jars or things like that. So just kind of like holistically looking at the big picture of like, okay, here's the product, how's that packaging going to look, how are we disposing of it, what are you going to pack it in, how are you going to pack it, what service, like we use Sendle because they're carbon neutral. But it's like there's so many steps that you don't really consider. So I hope to kind of help take out many years of wasted research for people and help them out.
Awesome. Yeah, Lee, that would be so big. That'll help with that buyer beware and really the early part of the journey here for everyone, isn't it? That'll just help educate people quickly. And Lee, what advice would you give to someone starting out on their journey towards a sustainable supply chain?
I think you don't have to go all in straight away. I mean, it definitely, if you kind of sit down and take time, I didn't pause when I started. I didn't really think through everything. Like it was all kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. Okay, we have this, now we've got to send in something, like I ordered because we had pouches. I made these kind of unique mailers with bubble wrap on the inside, which of course, not ideal. But I made them, I got them in bulk because they were like branded, and then, you're stuck with a bucket load of something that takes up warehouse space, you might not want to use in the future. So it's kind of, don't do that. And actually that's another tip as well. Like if you're starting out is, the more things you order, obviously is the warehouse space, and you kind of got to factor that into all of the costs. So that was a mistake with a lot of things that we ordered in bulk. But so back to your question, I think really pause and think through the packaging. How is it going to like end? Are you going to order it in Australia or China? Because there's definitely like the pros and cons for both. Obviously somewhere like China, you can get it for a lot cheaper. But then there's repercussions of like bulk, and you might not know where it's coming from in the end. Gosh, I don't know, that's like a whole hour of like where to start.
Yeah, I bet. No, I think there's been so many good points you've given us throughout the episode so far. Hey, Lee, how can people connect with you and follow your business into the future, especially this bit where you're talking about sharing further knowledge and insights to help people going forward?
Yeah, so we have a section on littlewildlingco.com website called We Are the Wild Ones. So that's where we'll be doing our kind of interview series and talking about all of the kind of sustainable business. But yeah, I guess just across our Instagram, Little Wildling Co, and then my personal one is This Wildling Life _. So either way, drop us a line.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for that discussion, Brad and Lee. That was incredibly informative, and I'm sure a lot of our attendees have been able to take not one, but many takeaways from the discussion. We have had a few questions come through while you've been having a chat, so I'm just going to run through them now. And we will start with a question from Dale. And she's asking, how is it that you can justify choosing a sustainable option when at times it can be a lot more expensive than standard packaging?
Yeah, that's the thing. It definitely is harder. I think for me, it's kind of, I feel it's my almost moral obligation because I don't want to be putting something out there that's crap. Like you could literally go into Alibaba right now and order a shipping container of literally anything and market it and sell it. But I'm kind of, as I said, it's just through my self education and seeing the landfills and just everything that's kind of happening in the environment. That I'm kind of steering this way. But it's also just there's always alternatives, like whether you can do a compostable option in Australia. Like obviously you want to try to go local when you can, but like for me as a new business, like it really is expensive. So I'm looking at again, I have suppliers that I found overseas. We're looking at splitting with other businesses as well. So it kind of, if it's a mailer or boxes or like whatever it is, can you kind of collaborate with other like-minded business to kind of get it all together? Or it might not be all of your business, it might just be like one aspect you start, whether it might be a compostable mailer bag and in the rest of your product stand, or it's just in increments.
And guys, I wouldn't mind adding one bit to that too from my process side is consider total cost. So a lot of the environmental options, they're developing environmental packaging options that are faster to pack and produce less damages. So often when you look at total cost, you might actually find that some of the things ends up being cheaper, like Giami, like, hey Lee, that's a great example of where the price can be comparable or a little bit more, but the speed at which you can pack is so much more that you save on total cost.
Exactly, and things like that as well with like the mailers and things like that. If you get it unbranded, you can get it cheaper rather than going, printed directly on and having that whole print process as well. So it's kind of cut costs where you can in things like that, or like, the packing shape doesn't need to be like branded or things like that. So I think there's little ways you can kind of make it a little bit more cost affordable. But I find that the customers, they find you and they are happy to pay the extra dollar as well when they know and you educate them of what you're actually using as well and why.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lee. It's that marketing and that potential unique brand promotion that can help too, isn't it? Getting more sales from the approach.
100%.
Awesome, thank you. So the next question we have is from Mark, and he has asked, where would you recommend I look if I want to research sustainable packaging options, I guess from suppliers, or what different options are available?
Sorry, what sort of packaging was it?
Sustainable.
Oh, sustainable. So I've actually come across a couple in Australia recently, which was really great timing, who are now, everyone's trying to do, they may partner with a China company, but bring it in Australia as well. So it kind of is a little bit cheaper, and they're the middleman as well. So there's one that I found recently called Vivo Packaging, VIVO, and they've just released a short run for printed directly on recycled and compostable pouches, which is really great. So again, it's a little bit more, it's more than what it would be if you were doing it direct in China. I think it was like $1.80 or something like that per package if for a compostable, recyclable pouch. But if they only want $1,000 run, to see how it goes, it might be better than going to China and where it's like 15 cents, but getting 5,000. So they were a really great one. But yeah, there are lots of Australia ones now, but I know people bag it, but Alibaba, it could be a gold mine, but also like just awful. So it's just spending the time and putting out the quotes and kind of being really particular and doing your research once you find a supplier, then to then go onto their real homepage of their website and kind of do a bit of investigating of their business. And if you have anyone who's in China or aware of overseas, if they can check out the factory, it's always great. But I've had some really great relationships with people that I've found from Alibaba, and yeah, I've been really lucky. So they are out there now. They even have a sustainable page on their website as well. So I think if you need to do it cost effective to start with, then you know, you may have to look overseas to start with, and then once your brand builds and you have a little bit more money, you can bring it in-house in Australia.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for those recommendations. One more question we have time for is from Jess, and she would like to know what your current packaging consists of and what it is that you've eliminated since starting Little Wildling Co.
Yeah, I've got, actually, it's a really dodgy, so people will cringe, but this was one of my first ones that I found we did. So this is a resealable pouch that I've obviously had in my cupboard for a long time. So it's foil laminate and on the outside as well with labels. So the reason I did this to start with was I got the pouches printed directly on that was a China, and then I got my labels printed in Australia. So the reason I went with that, because you know, I loved the look of it, the design and the branding vibes of it on, but it also gave me the flexibility and freedom to like have all the different blends and SKUs without having to print 1,000 per 12T blends. So this is what I've eliminated. We've actually just got them back. So here's a little mock-up of what it looks like, but it's a white box packaging. So we've moved everything to recyclable boxes now, in both a white packaging and black packaging. And the reason is it's just easier to dispose. The inserts are biodegradable, and yeah, that's it's just easier. And also from a storage perspective, like flat lay is easier. And then the other one that we have is our jars as well, for the fact that, yeah, they're glass, they're hopefully to be either repurposed or reused. We have our refill bags for people to kind of continue using the jars, or, you know, I see people repurpose them as like vases and kind of storage containers as well. So yeah, so slowly but surely we're kind of we're removing all of the non-recyclable objects from our SKU.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It was very helpful that you had them on hand so that people can get a first-hand view of what it is actually that the company's using. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of our question time. And I just want to double check, Lee and Brad, if there were any extra things you'd like to just note at the end here to leave with our attendees.
Thank you, Lee. That was great information.
Thank you. No, I think it's all, I think that's, yeah, I mean, I could talk all day on it, but I think just one last thing, just because you may not think it exists, like just research and double check and ask the companies, because so many times where they might not communicate it, but they actually have it. Like even with the labels, when I was going around saying that they're evil and we have to get rid of them all and print directly on, like since then I've found like there are either recycled labels or labels that aren't actually plastic that are recyclable as well. So yeah, places like Fast Printing, they do them now. So yeah, it's always just ask the question.
That's fantastic advice. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. For our attendees, we will be emailing you the webinar recording along with some helpful resources where you can gain some further knowledge and help around the topic, and that will be coming through early next week. Thank you once again to our fantastic speakers. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on board. For all of our attendees, you are going to see a short survey at the end of the webinar just to let us know how the event was for you. And as this is our final webinar for the year, the team here at Unpack It and Signet would like to wish you all a very happy and restful holiday period. And we can't wait to start sharing with you again in 2021. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.